Today is basically 11th of October, one day after films. Yesterday was the films. There's a very good article today by Ashok Gulati. So this man. So whatever this man's writes, it is pure gold. He is one of the finest agroeconomists in India. Okay. So this article tells us a lot about how questions can be framed. Very good questions can be framed from a single article. I'll show you at least three previous year prelims questions here, and 2 to 3 dimensions about mains, especially which can be asked, which have been asked with respect to climate change. Okay, let's begin. So what this article basically argues is that, see, COP26 is coming. So COP26 is Conference of Parties 26th session. It's going to be held in UK. So basically, our discussions are fundamentally on India always says that we need common but differentiated responsibilities, which means that we are a developing country and hence we need a good amount of carbon budget. So you need to transfer us more green technologies. Kindly don't ask us to reduce our emissions is the fundamental argument of India. So it basically goes for CBDR, carbon common but differentiated responsibilities. Many of my friends also have been asked this question even in the interview. The question is, should India actually argue for common but differentiated responsibilities? Which means CBDR simply put is saying that, bro, you rich countries, you have already developed, so you do more for climate change than me. Don't ask me to do more for climate change. That is the basic idea behind CBDR. So there are two arguments whether India should really contribute significantly to CBDR or not. So what are the arguments? He gives all the very good arguments here. Number one. So why we should contribute, why we should stress less on CBDR and stress more on taking up the responsibility is, one, that you see we are already one of the greatest, we are suffering from pollution. Out of the top 30 polluted cities, 22 are in India. There's a World Air Quality Report which says that 50 is the basic level, but we are most of the times 300 is an average. On an average, we have 300, while the tolerable level is just 50, and sometimes it goes to 600 and 800 also during the winter season. This was a previous year mains question where they asked why there is significant amount of air pollution in Delhi. So the reason is winter. There is something called funnel effect. There are different reasons. So we are suffering a lot from pollution. So if we further argue that no, we'll be contributing less, it's not in our best interest. Point number one. Point number two is, you see, we are one of the greatest emitters as well. We are the third largest emitter. First is China, next is US, next we are the third, we are ranked 3. So China emits about 10 BT, US is about 5.4, we are about 2.6. Number 2. Number 3, even in terms of per capita, not even in terms of the percentage of emissions per GDP, or what is known as emissions intensity, we are pretty much high, we are not less. Okay, the only argument on our side is that our per capita emissions is very less when compared to China and US. In terms of per capita, US ranks first, second is China, third is us, third or fourth is us. So these are the 3 to 4 arguments which we can give both in favor and against. In favor of CBDR is that our per capita emissions are low. Whereas if you want to say that no, we have to take a significant responsibility, then our argument is that, you see, we are already suffering a lot, and based on other indicators as well in terms of emission intensity, etc., we are ranking pretty high. So these are the 2 to 3 basic arguments regarding that. So let's leave this. Let's come to the second part of the article. The second part of the article discusses about the various scenarios in India. Here it tells, you see, this is a potential prelims question. In India, if you have to rank the what you call pollution levels or emissions, carbon emissions, how do you rank? So which is the highest, which is the second highest, etc. You see, in India, 44% is energy, number one. Number two is manufacturing, 3 is construction, and agriculture at 4th rank is 14%. Okay, Now you just relate these with your what you have read in your environment climate change chapter, Shankar book or whatsoever. You see, for energy sector, what are all the policies we are having to cut the carbon emissions? You see, we have PAT scheme, perform, achieve and trade, and we have these ratings. Okay, uh, those are some schemes with respect to energy sector. Recollect what all do you have with respect to manufacturing and also construction sector. Do you remember we have these norms, right, wherein I think um, Tata Institute of Fundamental Sciences, Sciences, etc., gives us ratings for various buildings. There are various green building codes, etc., for manufacturing, etc. So for all these, we have a set system. We have given system as to how we can reduce our emissions intensity. But for agriculture, it is largely unregulated. And in this sector, Ashok Gulati gives some very good suggestions. And his fundamental argument is that we need a carbon policy for the farm. We need a, so you should be able to have a policy. You should know what all in agriculture are contributing to emissions. Number one. After that, for each aspect of the emissions, what all are you going to do? You should be having a particular policy. In that sense, he gives few very good suggestions. Okay. Now we have understood that energy is rank 1, rank 2 is manufacturing, third is construction, right? Now let's go within agriculture. So within agriculture, livestock contributes to about 55%. So, and one more point, India is the country with the largest livestock in the world. It's not Brazil, it's not US. India is rank 1. We have about 537 million livestock. You see, most of the villages, if it's a lean season, their income is predominantly on dairy and livestock. So we have a lot of livestock as well. So, and this livestock is contributing to about 55%, okay, in the form of methane emissions. So in agriculture, it is not the rice, it is not the paddy fields which is contributing to emissions. Rank 1 is livestock. Then you get methane emissions, okay, then you have nitrogenous fertilizers, then the agricultural soils. You see, questions have been asked on all of these. Whether nitrogenous fertilizers are actually contributing to what you call soil pollution, or whether it is contributing to global warming, has been a previous year PYQ, in prelims PYQ. Okay, then about soils contribute to about 19%, rice cultivation contributes to about 18%. Okay, then livestock management about 6.9%, burning of crop residues, especially in Punjab and Haryana, they contribute to about 2.1%. So this is the basic scenario about what all are contributing to emissions. Here he comes with a very beautiful idea. His idea is that, see bro, if you want to make someone reduce their emissions, you have to reward them. How are you helping industry? You are helping industry in reducing emissions by giving them certain credits known as carbon credits. Likewise, he proposes that even for agriculture, if a particular sector is reducing its emissions, give them carbon credits. So include them in the climate finance. Maybe the right word to say is include them in the market mechanism. Basically, we are trying to reduce emissions at an international level through carbon markets. So the basic argument of this article is that open up the carbon markets to agriculture. This is a very good and new idea. Number one. Also, how can you, okay, if you want to open up carbon markets, you have to be creating carbon credits. Now, how do you create carbon credits? One, rather than regular rice, he's asking us to go for direct seeded rice. Next, besides that, switch crops. Rice is contributing to a lot of emission because of the paddy fields. Why don't you switch to maize? Number one, people will switch from rice to maize only when you make maize a profitable crop. Maize should be as profitable as rice. So how can you make it profitable? So you can make maize profitable by including maize as a crop for producing bioethanol. So if you say that, dude, you cultivate maize and I'll buy it for bioethanol, for creating ethanol. This will be having one more impact as well. When you make ethanol from maize, what happens is you are also reducing your import budget. No, you are reducing your imports of petroleum, etc. So in that sense, it will be good in that aspect as well. Next, and also you see, replace, have alternatives to fertilizers. So right now, agricultural soils, this is a very good point. Agricultural soils are the single largest source of N2O emissions. Here you need to remember what are all are having the very high intensity of emissions. You see, CHO is about 4 to 5 times more powerful than CO2. N2O is many times powerful than CO2, and agricultural soils are very high producers of N2O. And it is also said that post green revolution and off late there has been about 360% of increase in N2O emissions from our soils. So if you are able to give them with alternate fertilizers like these soluble fertilizers, if you are able to help them with fertigation, okay, fertigation has been a previous year question, previous year prelims question. So it will help them in reducing the emissions from agriculture. So this is broadly the article. I'll give a gist of it. So the whole theme is that you need to reduce your emissions from agriculture. You can reduce your emissions by incentivizing or by opening up carbon markets to agriculture. In what ways can you open up? What are all the areas where you can actually reduce your emissions? Go for direct seeded rice, go for fertigation, go for alternative, go for alternatives to fertilizers. These are all the ways in which you can reduce the carbon footprint and also help the environment. So this is the overall gist. Now just see how many potential prelims and mains questions are there in this. First question, see, who releases this World Air Quality Report? Number one. Number two, what is this air quality index? Number three, what is this global carbon atlas? Next, you have what is the who are all the largest? Rank the following countries in terms of their emissions. Number one, in terms of their emissions intensity as a percentage of GDP. Number two, number three, in terms of per capita. There are three questions which can be thoroughly quoted in mains and are also very potential prelims questions. Next, direct seeded rice. This has been a previous year question, previous year prelims question. This was asked. Fertigation was asked. You see, just from a single article. So always choose articles which open up multiple dimensions. And if you focus on each keyword, a lot of links open. So this is overall about this article. After this article, there are 3 ideas from the article. Make a note of those ideas and you can thoroughly quote them both in pre and also mains. Chalo.